Imagine a time long before the Vikings or Columbus, when a group of master seafarers began one of the greatest voyages in human history. This wasn't just a single journey. It was an epic expansion across the vast, blue expanse of the Pacific Ocean. These weren't Europeans, but a people from Southeast Asia, and they would leave behind a trail of clues, not in written texts, but in beautifully crafted clay. Today, we journey back 3,500 years to meet the Lapita people, the ancestors of Polynesians, and uncover the story told by their remarkable pottery. Our story begins around 1500 BCE in the Bismarck Archipelago, just east of New Guinea. This is where we find the earliest, most distinct traces of the Lapita cultural complex. But who were these people? Genetic and linguistic evidence tells us they were Austronesian speakers, originating from the islands of Southeast Asia, likely Taiwan. For thousands of years, their ancestors had been moving island by island, mastering agriculture and boat building. But when they reached the edge of the known world, the vast ocean we now call Melanesia, they didn't stop. They innovated. They developed larger, more stable outrigger canoes capable of carrying people, plants, and animals across hundreds, even thousands of kilometers of open water. This was the key that unlocked the Pacific. They were navigators of the highest order, reading the stars, the ocean swells, the flight of birds, and the subtle signs of distant land on the horizon. They packed their canoes with everything they needed to start a new life: taro, yams, breadfruit, as well as domesticated animals like pigs, dogs, and chickens. They were, in every sense, oceanic pioneers. And wherever they went, they brought their signature art form, Lapita Pottery. Now, this isn't just any old pottery, it's incredibly distinctive. It's typically low-fired earthenware, often with a reddish slip applied, and then decorated with intricate, repeating geometric patterns. Think of tiny stamps, made from shell or wood, being pressed into the wet clay over and over again. The designs are breathtakingly complex: circles, arcs, triangles, and sometimes stylized faces. These face motifs are particularly fascinating. Some archaeologists believe they might represent ancestors, deities, or important cultural figures. They stare out at us from across 3 millennia, a ghostly glimpse into the spiritual world of the Lapita. So, what makes this pottery so important? For archaeologists, it's like a trail of breadcrumbs. By tracking the distribution of Lapita potsherds, the broken pieces we find, we can map their incredible migration. From the Bismarck Archipelago, they moved eastward with astonishing speed. Within just a few hundred years, they had colonized the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa. This vast area, stretching over 4,500 kilometers, became the Lapita heartland. Imagine setting out from your home and, within a dozen generations, your descendants are living on islands thousands of kilometers away, islands no human had ever set foot on before. It's a staggering achievement. But the pottery tells us more than just where they went. It tells us how they lived. The sheer quantity of pottery found at some sites suggests these weren't just small, isolated groups. They were establishing thriving villages, often on coastal terraces or small offshore islands. The style of the pottery also reveals a connected world. A pot found in Fiji might have a design motif almost identical to one found in Vanuatu, hundreds of kilometers away. This doesn't happen by accident. It points to a vast and sophisticated network of interaction. They weren't just colonizing. They were communicating, trading, and maintaining social ties across immense ocean distances. What were they trading? One of the most prized commodities was obsidian, a type of volcanic glass that's incredibly sharp and perfect for making tools. By analyzing the chemical signature of obsidian artifacts, we can trace them back to their specific volcanic source. For example, obsidian from a quarry in New Britain has been found at Lapita sites all the way in Fiji. This is concrete evidence of a long-distance exchange network, a kind of oceanic superhighway. They were likely trading not just goods, but also ideas, genes, and stories, all facilitated by their incredible seafaring skills. Life in a Lapita village would have been a blend of the old and the new. They brought their agricultural package with them, clearing land to plant their root crops and fruit trees. They hunted local birds and harvested the rich resources of the sea fish, turtles, and shellfish. Their villages consisted of houses built on stilts, protecting them from tides and keeping them cool in the tropical climate. And at the heart of it all was the production of pottery, a central part of their cultural identity. But then, something curious happens. Around 500 BCE, after a millennium of incredible artistic production, the classic, intricately decorated Lapita pottery starts to disappear. In its place, we find simpler, undecorated pottery. And in some places, like in Polynesia, pottery making ceases altogether for a time. Why? Did they lose the skill? Did their spiritual beliefs change? Or did they simply find new materials to use for containers, like gourds and intricately carved wooden bowls, which were more durable and better suited to their needs? This is one of the great mysteries of Pacific archaeology. The Lapita pause marks a significant cultural shift. But this wasn't the end of their story. It was simply the end of a chapter. The Lapita people in the West, in what we now call Melanesia, integrated with existing populations, creating the rich cultural diversity we see there today. The groups in the East, in Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, became the direct ancestors of the Polynesians. After a pause of several hundred years, they burst out from this homeland once more, embarking on the final, and perhaps most impressive, phase of Pacific colonization. Using the same navigational skills honed by their Lapita ancestors, they sailed into the vast emptiness of the eastern Pacific, discovering and settling the Marquesas, Tahiti, Hawaii, Easter Island Rapa Nui, and finally New Zealand Aotearoa. Every person of Polynesian descent today can trace their lineage back to these intrepid Lapita voyagers. The spirit of exploration, the connection to the sea, the deep reverence for ancestry, it all began with the people who stamped faces onto clay pots 3,500 years ago. So the next time you see an image of a moai on Easter Island, or a Hawaiian outrigger canoe, remember where that story started. It started in the islands of Melanesia, with a people who dared to sail beyond the horizon, carrying their culture with them in fragile clay vessels. The Lapita weren't just pottery makers, they were the architects of a new world, the navigators who settled a third of the Earth's surface. Their legacy isn't just buried in the sand. It's alive in the cultures, languages, and people of the Pacific today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into our incredible human past. Let me know in the comments which ancient culture you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.